Welcome to episode 107 of the Scarlet Faithful podcast. I'm Aaron Breitman, coming to you on Monday, July 10th. Appreciate everyone who's been listening and watching. I was a little bit behind last week. I was on vacation. I had 3 episodes, not my usual daily 5, but I'm back, hoping to provide as much content as usual in podcast form. I've also been pumping out a ton of articles lately covering summer league action for NBA with Caleb McConnell, Ron Harper Jr. A lot of AAU action with the Peach Jam this past weekend. I got something coming on Ace Bailey soon. But I wanted to kind of harp on recruiting, both football and basketball, for this episode. First off, just with obviously Kaj Sanders' commitment on Saturday, 4-star out of Bergen Catholic. I did a rapid reaction episode about it, and obviously huge for the program, huge win in the state, and just huge for talent-wise in terms of what they're getting out of him. I was a little surprised to see a little bit of a narrative going on social media. I think people, it was a Saturday, maybe people were out, but I did see some narrative of that this is going to turn the tide in terms of, we've all had the dream of New Jersey recruits staying home in large numbers, and it really changing the trajectory of the program. I mean, you could say that for any sport. I mean, look at women's soccer for Rutgers. Heavy majority New Jersey recruits, and it's the most consistent, most successful program at Rutgers. I've said for a long time, track and field. If you look at track and field, if they were able to keep the majority of the talent from New Jersey year after year home and away out of the SEC and other schools, that program would be a powerhouse. And they're in great shape with Bobby Farrell, and I think they're heading in a really good direction, and they continue to get better, and they're continuing to keep more and more kids home. Football, of course. I do love that Schiano and the staff have gone outside the state this year, this recruiting cycle for 2024, not because I wish they weren't doing better in New Jersey. I do, because I think that this class still is really good and it's littered with Power 5 commitments. But at the same time, there has to be a balance, right? There has to be a balance. You can't be over-reliant with your home state. First of all, New Jersey is not big enough to do that. But at the same time, you don't want to be handcuffed where you're constantly waiting on New Jersey recruits to stay home, and then you get burned in the end. And you might be fighting an uphill battle that you just can't win, right? There's always going to be kids that want to get out of the state, but it's the key in honing and identifying the ones that want to stay, whether it's for family reasons, whether it's to, they believe in their state university and they want to be a hometown hero. I think one thing that gets kind of maybe forgotten about with recruiting that I love that Kaj Sanders is talking about now is his want to recruit other top flight guys into the program. And you always have a few leaders in each recruiting class that are key in doing so. But the fact that he's talking about it so quickly, it seems like his family really wanted him to stay home. He had a lot of options, a lot of big time offers. The fact that he's talking about that so quickly after committing is a great sign, A, for his own commitment and his belief in the program. But it really ties to the bigger point that really good players want to play with really good players. You could have the best culture in the world. You could have the best facilities in the world. You could have the best fan base in the world. You could have, yes, NIL is a factor, a major factor for some people, minor factor for others. But at the end of the day, players want to play with really good players. And I think that factor doesn't get enough, I don't know if recognition is the right word, or importance placed on it from a fan perspective in terms of how we look at it. And, looking at basketball, right, with Ace Bailey heavily recruiting Dylan Harper, the Rutgers staff obviously making a huge deal to Dylan, how important he is, a transformative recruit. But again, I think really good players, actively recruiting really good players, it's an X factor in terms of how programs can recruit. And I think with football, there's kind of a famous story about Schiano in his first tenure, how he brought in, and I forget, I don't know if it was Savon Huggins or maybe even Mike Teal, but it's been told several times, been reported. But basically, Shiano brought in all the top recruits in New Jersey and sat them all in one room. It was basically like, look at each other. If you all stay here and come to Rutgers, you're going to make it a powerhouse. Obviously, he had incremental success to the point where he had legitimate success in terms of building his recruiting classes towards the end of his first tenure. I think we're seeing a major step forward this current recruiting class in terms of getting the right fits for the program. Not necessarily all, you're not going to get every 4-star you recruit, but getting the last two, Corey Duff Jr., Kaj Sanders, certainly gives this staff and the program momentum. You have some really good talent in place behind them in the high 3 stars. AJ Serace is a guy that's been recruiting behind the scenes. You have other players in the recruiting class as well. It's that belief that grows, right? It starts with the coaching staff. It starts with the culture. It starts with the current players. But how it spreads amongst the recruits themselves and those that are committing and how they communicate to other top recruits is really huge. And I think we're seeing that can have a positive benefit for Rutgers, right? And keeping, AJ Serace, Kaj Sanders, two of the top recruits in New Jersey, staying home. Now they're looking to keep other guys home. And it's not just one recruiting class, right? It's got to build. And I think with football, we're seeing positive signs now. We're seeing some inroads being made. Obviously, Bergen Catholic's a huge win. I saw, again, part of that narrative. So all of a sudden we're going to start getting all the big North guys. It doesn't work that way, right? And I think social media and everything drives things to extremes. Everything's either the best or the worst. And just because they got Kaj Sanders from Bergen Catholic doesn't mean they're going to get the next top recruit from Bergen Catholic. It doesn't ensure anything. But what it does ensure is that Rutgers can win recruiting battles in the state against a lot of other good Power 5 programs. And that was really important to happen right now. And it's going to really, I think, help a lot in terms of how the 24 class finishes. And again, winning is the ultimate key to driving recruiting. And winning comes from the belief of getting good players in and getting them to buy in and believe, right? And I think in these two classes, both basketball and football, we're seeing leaders within the class. We're seeing top talent. Basketball, obviously, on another level. Ace Bailey, the number 2 recruit, in the country. Dylan Harper, the number 1 recruit, heavily pursued. What I loved about what Steve Peichel and the coaching staff are sending the message of is that they are making it clear. They're not taking anything for granted. The way they went to Hungary for the World Cup, the way they were at the Peach Jam, every assistant was, there watching him. At some point, they had Smoke Williamson, Brandon Knight, and Peichel watching him for one. It was Thursday, and then on Friday, all 4 were there. TJ Thompson was there as well. When they played, it was Dylan Harper versus Lathan Somerville, and it just shows that this staff is not resting on anything, and they continue to pursue. And selling Dylan Harper on staying home as a New Jersey kid, transforming the program, and being a legend, basically, if you stay at Rutgers and bring the program to new heights. That is a universal message that Rutgers, I believe, is selling in every sport, and it's resonating. It resonates with recruits. And football, I think, listen, Shiano's in year 4 now. Peichel's in year 8. Year 4 of Peichel recruiting, people were really down on him. Now we're seeing where he's able to take things. And who they're involved in 25, a lot of top recruits in 25, including Darius Adams, top New Jersey recruit. Again, just Rutgers being in these conversations. And what I thought was interesting with Peach Jam is, all the national recruiting analysts are tweeting who's there. A lot of times Rutgers was always there and they weren't mentioned. And now they're being mentioned. They have to be mentioned, right? With Dylan Harper, the top recruit in the country, Rutgers is being mentioned. You don't think that the other top recruits in other classes are seeing that? That helps. It's all one big kind of domino circle, tumbleweed, gaining momentum. And again, it goes back to talent, and whether it's New Jersey talent, national talent. Ace Bailey has no, he's from Georgia, but he believes in Rutgers. He's a top talent, and he is actively part of the recruiting process with Dylan Harper, local guy. You need the mix. You can't have all New Jersey. You can't go all out of state. You can't just rely on the coaching staff. You have to have top talent that believe in the program, that commit to the program, that are then pursuing and selling other top talent on the program. And it seems basic, right? But I don't know how much it's Rutgers getting the top talent that has a strong enough credibility to make other top recruits believe. I think that's another part of it too. And obviously with basketball, listen, if Rutgers can get Dylan Harper, the coaching staff is showing him, that he is a transformational recruit. They offered him first. Pikel's known him the longest of any of the coaches that are still recruiting him. And he's everywhere watching him. That sends a message. That sends a strong statement. Football, listen, Shiano going to the Big North and getting Kai Sanders is a big statement. Corey Duff, Rutgers has done pretty well with New York State recently, but getting those two guys makes a statement. And now the staff has even more to sell to the remaining targets in the 24 class because they just landed their two highest rated recruits right now. After they build a solid base, now they're adding the top layers. They're adding the suites, the amenities, right? They're making that house of the 24 class look better and better by the day. And I'm not saying that was their strategy, but we know that a lot of top recruits commit towards later in the cycles, right? So I just love the way the football staff has built the class. I love what the men's basketball coaching staff is doing, how they're strategizing, how they're projecting. It's all just kind of meshing together, right? And basketball has major momentum. They obviously have to close out on the 24 class, and football does too. And both programs have opportunities coming into this year to really solidify the program on the court and on the field, and then continue to elevate off the field in recruiting. So that's really kind of what I just wanted to talk about. I don't know if that, I don't know my greatest point other than it's going to take time, right? And one commitment doesn't mean 10 more are going to follow from all the top players, right? But it's who are they getting in, the credibility of those recruits, their belief in the program. It's one thing to get a 4-star to commit. It's another one to be the spokesman for the players, for the recruits, not just in their current recruiting cycle, but once they become part of the program, right? The Geo Bakers and Ron Harpers weren't highly recruited kids, but they had credibility as Rutgers became a better program. They had credibility to recruits that Rutgers pursued in terms of come here, things are good, win here, want to pass it all down to you. That other players followed. They have Cliff Omori and Gavin Griffiths, and now the momentum is building. And the same thing has to happen with football. And I think we are starting to see the early signs of that. It doesn't mean it's just going to all of a sudden change overnight and all the top kids from New Jersey are always going to say it. Doesn't mean that. But you also don't need that. You want that, but Rutgers has done a really good job, the coaching staff, of spreading their wings and getting really good players in other states. And Florida, we know, is a stronghold. North Carolina has been really beneficial this class. Michigan. I just think that strategy-wise, target-wise, the momentum they've built, it is sustainable, but it's not an overnight thing. And I think that maybe people had high hopes for Shiano coming back, that he was going to all of a sudden turn out top 25 recruiting classes. This class isn't, on pace to be a top 25. They're going to need a couple more 4-stars just to finish top 35. But there are really positive signs to like in this class. And again, with basketball, we're seeing the years and years and years of hard work with Pikel and the rise of the program and how things are trending right now. And yes, I know there's some people that are waiting for the other shoe to drop, that, the 24 class isn't going to actually sign. And you know what? I guess I get it to a degree, but at the same time, look at how things are being built and look at all the signs in terms of the talent they have coming in, how that talent is helping send the message, spread the culture, and spread the belief. And we're seeing it. We've seen it with basketball. We're seeing it with football now, I think. and it's just really positive on both sides. So I'm excited about where recruiting is for both programs, and we'll see how the 24 class finishes for both. There's a lot, there's signing day is still months away. Dylan Harper, no kind of, he waffled a little bit. He just was non-committal in terms of when he's going to make a decision. But I love that the coaching staff just continues to hammer down the fact that you are going to change the program. You are that generational recruit for the program, and we are showing you every day that we believe that you are. And then with football, they just keep chopping, right? And all of a sudden, they're starting to make serious headway. So thank you for listening and watching this episode, and I'll be back tomorrow.